Well, we were just talking about the 3 different degrees of comparison in adjectives. What are they? The positive degree, the comparative degree, and the superlative degree. Now, positive degree is nothing but the quality of things as they are, okay, in the normal condition. Comparative degree is a little higher than the ordinary quality. For example, if that is sweet, this is sweeter. So, when you compare one to the other, a little higher degree is a comparative degree. Superlative degree is the highest form of a quality. For example, the sweetest of all fruits is the mango, the sweetest. So, the highest degree or the highest quality of anything. Okay? I am going to give you a tabular column where we are going to see positive, comparative and superlative. And we have certain rules to follow, and I am going to explain that to you too. Okay, are you ready? We are just doing degrees of comparison. Degrees of comparison. I'll just do positive here. Comparative. And superlative. Okay, we are going to do the rule number 1 first. The first rule is that any adjective with one syllable will take which ends with a consonant will take ER for comparative and EST for superlative. That's what we are going to see now. I'm going to give you some examples. Write down. Small. It is just one syllable. Smaller and smallest. So, we add ER and EST for comparative and superlative. Next one. Bold. Come on, give some words. Bold, tall, what else? Sweet. What else would you give? Bold, bold you have written. Kind. Great. Can have kind you have written. Young. Okay. I'll give you this many: small, bold, tall, sweet, kind, great, young. Shall we see the comparative and superlative now? Comparative for bold, bolder. You are adding ER, and she is the boldest in the class. Boldest, EST. And next one, tall. ER. Tallest is TALEST. She is taller than maybe this girl and that girl, but she is the tallest in the class. So, when you compare two people or two things, we use the comparative degree. More than two, we use the superlative. Next, sweet, sweeter, sweetest. Kind, kinder, kindest. Great, greater, greatest. Young, younger, youngest. What about old? I've written in the a little closer here. I'll write it down so that you don't get confused. Okay, since we have written young, why don't we write old? Old, older, oldest. Okay, now if you just see, we have just single syllabled words, and these single syllabled words will take ER for comparative and EST for superlative. Quickly we will have a run through positive, comparative and superlative. Positive degree is any thing, a quality of something in the normal self. Comparative is a little higher than the normal, and superlative is the highest form of the quality. Small, smaller, smallest. Bold, bolder, boldest. Tall, taller, tallest. Okay, then sweet, sweeter, sweetest. Kind, kinder, kindest. Great, greater, greatest. Young, younger, youngest. Old, older, oldest. Now, quickly we will have 2 or 3 sentences for any of these. Okay, if we take great, for example, he was a great leader. So, a normal condition. Mr. X is a great person, but Mr. Y is greater than X. Mr. O is the greatest of all. Okay, now do you understand how it is used? We will say this. He is a young boy. His sister is younger than him. His little brother is the youngest of all. Okay, now do you understand how we use these degrees of comparison in sentences? Somu is a bold girl. Ramu is bolder than Somu. Satish is the boldest boy in the class. Okay, the highest degree will be the superlative degree. Okay, so you memorize this rule now. Rule 1, any single syllabled adjective will take ER, and that too ending in a consonant will take ER for comparative and EST for superlative. Just remember this. Okay, now we are going to do rule number 2. Rule number 2 is when a single syllabled word ends in E. Now, earlier we saw words ending in a consonant. Now, when a word ends in E, the comparative degree takes only R and superlative takes only ST. Okay? We don't add another E to it. So, along with the word ending in E, for example, brave, B-R-A-V-E, we just say braver, bravest. Okay. So, here we do not add E, we add only R and ST. I will give you some examples. I can't give you all the words, I am just giving you a few examples. Brave, fine, white, large, able, noble, and wise. These are just a few of the examples. So, brave, all these words if you see ends in a E. Now, let us say brave, braver. It just adds one R, and superlative will be bravest. It adds only ST. Do you understand this rule? Second rule, words ending in E takes only R for comparative and ST for superlative. Fine, finer, and finest. White, whiter than snow, we say. Whiter, whitest. Next one, large, larger, and largest. Able, abler is more abler than the other one, ablest. Noble, nobler. Noblest. Wise, wiser, wisest. If you see, certain words we don't much use in the other degrees of comparison. Brave, braver, bravest, of course. Ram is a brave boy. Sam is braver than Ram, and Sandip is the bravest of all the boys. So, we use brave, we use fine, finer, finest, white, whiter, whitest we use, large we use, but able we don't much use. Abler, ablest person we don't much use, but this is the rule. Noble, nobler, noblest, of course we use. Wise, wiser, and wisest. Okay, a quick run through, a recap of all that we have done. Rule number 2, ending in E takes R for comparative and ST for superlative, and here are the words: brave, braver, bravest; fine, finer, finest; white, whiter, whitest; large, larger, largest; able, abler, ablest; noble, nobler, noblest; wise, wiser, wisest. Okay, these are few of the examples, and you have to incorporate this rule for this kind of words ending in E. Now, we have seen rule 2. Next, we are going to see rule 3 and 4 together. That is, these are also one syllabled words, words ending in Y. Okay? no, these are words ending in Y, maybe more than one syllable also. For example, happy, EC, these are double syllabled words, but it ends in Y. When it ends in Y, we remove that Y and add I and add ER to this and EST to this. Okay? Shall we see the rules? Like heavy, merry, happy, all these are double syllabled words. Shall we see now how to change this Y into I and add ER and EST? Happy, double syllabled word. Next one, EC. Then heavy and merry and wealthy. Okay, we'll just do for these words and then go on to the next rule. Happy. Now take away this Y and add I and then add ER. Happier. Now take away Y, add I and EST. Happiest. Okay, so you change Y into I and add ER and EST. Easier. Easiest. Heavier. Heaviest. Merrier. And merriest. Next one, wealthier. Wealthy, wealthier, wealthiest. Okay, so this is rule number 3. Words ending in Y, take I and then ER for comparative. Same way superlative takes I and adds EST to superlative. Happy, happier, happiest. Easy, easier, easiest. Heavy, heavier, heaviest. Merry, merrier, merriest. Wealthy, wealthier and wealthiest. Now we'll move on to rule number 4. Rule number 4 is when a single syllabled word or so ends in a consonant with a weak verb, weak vowel, okay, with a weak vowel. For example, red, R-E-D, red. Here the vowel before the consonant is very weak form of a vowel, and so the consonant ending will take another consonant and then add ER or EST. So these adjectives which have consonants towards the end, that too when it is preceded by a very weak vowel, this consonant doubles and adds ER and EST for making comparative and superlative. I'll give you the examples, then you'll be able to understand better. Red, big, hot, sad, I can also add one more here, maybe thin. Okay, I've given you red, thin, big, hot, sad and fat. We'll see how they form the comparative and superlative. Red, we add one more D and then ER. Okay, reddest, red, redder, reddest. See, you see, the last consonant is doubled. Next one, thin, thin, thinner and thinnest. Consonant doubles and adds ER and EST there. Big, bigger and biggest. Hot, hotter, hottest. Sad, sadder, saddest. And the last one, fat, fatter and fattest. Okay, we'll have a quick recap of this rule number 4. Whenever a word, an adjective ends with a consonant and it has a very weak vowel before that, then when it becomes a comparative, the consonant doubles and takes ER. And when it becomes a superlative, the consonant doubles and takes EST. Is that clear now? Red, redder, reddest. Thin, thinner, thinnest. Big, bigger, biggest. Hot, hotter, hottest. And sad, sadder, saddest. Fat, fatter, fattest. So we have just discussed 2 different rules now. 1 and 2 we saw previously, and this is 3 and 4. You have some more to go, 2 more to go. Irregular comparisons and other things I'll teach you now. So far, if you're sure of it, just keep this in mind, these rules, and we'll see the rest now. Okay, let's go on to rule number 5. Okay. Rule number 5. These adjectives take more for comparative and most for superlative. Okay, the following words will take more for, that is the adjective, and here we have more and the adjective, and here we have most and the adjective. And these are the words, that is adjectives of more than 2 syllables these are. For example, splendid, beautiful, difficult, industrious, industrious, courageous, learned, and proper. Now I have given you a list of words here: splendid, beautiful, difficult, industrious, courageous, learned, and proper. Now let's see how to make these words into comparative and superlative. What did I say? These are all two-syllabled words. Splendid, beautiful, this is 3 syllables. Difficult, industrious, 4 syllables. Courageous, 4 syllables. Learned, proper, 2 syllables, these two. Okay, now let's see how to make splendid into a comparative and a superlative. More splendid and most splendid. More splendid and most splendid. Beautiful, more beautiful. We can't say beautifuler and beautifulest and all. Here we have to follow these rules. More beautiful and most beautiful. Difficult, more difficult, and most difficult. Industrious, more industrious, and superlative will be most industrious. Courageous, more courageous, and most courageous. Learned, more learned, and most learned. Proper, more proper, and most proper. Have you understood now? These words, the adjectives with 2 or more syllables will take more for comparative and most for superlative. Let's have a recap. Positive degrees here: splendid, comparative, more splendid, and superlative, most splendid. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Difficult, more difficult, and most difficult. Industrious, more industrious, and most industrious. Courageous, more courageous, and most courageous. Learned, more learned, most learned. And proper, more proper, and most proper. Okay, now we'll go on to the last rule, the irregular comparisons. So far Have you memorized the rules? So we'll see the last rule, the irregular comparison. Okay. Okay, the last pattern now, that is the sixth one, is the irregular comparisons. And this you have to keep in mind, it doesn't follow any regular pattern, but it is very irregular in its formation of comparative and superlative. Shall we see now? Good. Please don't say good, gooder, goodest, good or well. Next, bad. Don't say bad, badder, baddest. Okay, bad. Next will be little. Much. Many. Next one, far. For. And late. In and up. Okay, shall we see now the irregular comparisons? Good or well, better, better, and best. Good, better, and best. Okay, don't say, even for well also, I'm quite well, I'm better now, and I'm the best. And before superlative, we always use THE when we talk in a sentence. Bad, worse, and worst. Little, we say less or lesser. And least, least of all. Much, more, most. Much more, most. Many, also more, and most. Far, we say farther, farther. Mostly in those days, in poems and all poetic language, they use farther, farthest. Far, farther, farthest. Next one, for. For, former, former, and foremost. Okay, next one, late. We also say later, but latter also. Latter, later and latter. The latter one means the one which was used just beforehand. Latest and last. In. For in, inner and innermost. And up also, up, we also say inmost, okay, inmost or innermost. Same way, up, upper, uppermost or upmost. Such irregular comparisons these are. This is irregular. This is comparisons, irregular, okay. Let's have a quick recap of all that we have done now. This is the last rule, which is irregular comparison, and we have here some words which do not follow any set rule. It is so irregular in its comparison. Good or well, if you just use better for comparative and best for superlative. Okay. Next word, bad. Bad takes worse for comparative and worst for superlative. Next one, the adjective called little. Little becomes less or lesser for comparative and least for superlative. Positive, much, the adjective much becomes more for comparative and most for superlative. Next one, many. The adjective many in positive degree becomes more for comparative and most for superlative. Next, far. The adjective far becomes farther in comparative and farthest in superlative. Same way, for, F-O-R-E, for, before, forehand. So, former and foremost. Former becomes foremost in superlative degree. The ordinary adjective late becomes later and latest or latter and last. Okay? Late, later, latest or late, latter, last. Next one. In becomes inner for comparative, innermost or inmost for superlative. Same way, up becomes upper, but not upperest. It is uppermost or upmost. Okay, in and up will be inner and upper, but innermost and uppermost and inmost or upmost. So, these are the irregular comparisons, and you have to bear in mind good or well becomes better and best, bad becomes worse and worst, little becomes less, lesser or least, much becomes more and most, many becomes more and most, far becomes farther and farthest, for becomes former and foremost, late becomes later, latest or latter and last. In becomes inner, innermost or inmost, and up becomes upper, uppermost or upmost. Okay, now I think we have done almost all the 6 rules of comparison. I'm going to give you sentences now, and let's see whether you're able to change one to the other or fill in the correct blank with the correct comparative adjective.